I got myself a new art book this week. It's illustrations from the Monster Hunter franchise, and there are so many cool designs in here, especially when it comes to creatures, and inspiration-wise, this worked like a charm because it made me 100% sure that this week I had to do another round of turning something into dragons. And I had considered going straight on to Ben 10 dragons because that's highly requested and I'm super excited to do it. But I figured before I moved on to that, I should do at least one more round of My Hero Academia dragons, because there's so many awesome characters that I didn't get to in the last episode. And I mean, even after this one, I won't have gotten to all the awesome characters. So maybe round 3 will be in order at some point? Do people want that and the Ben 10 Dragons episode? Like button. Hit it if you're interested. Man, I'm really running out of riffs for things to say to get people to hit the like button. I'll have to jot down a bunch more interesting ones. But anyway, that's not important. Let's move right on to My Hero Academia Dragons. Let's go! Once again, we take ourselves to Japan for more of their miraculous dragons to be observed. Now, last time we didn't discuss many aggressive dragons, so today let's start with potentially the angriest, most aggressive one we've seen. The explosive cannon claw will seemingly pick a fight with any dragon it encounters. It seems to constantly be trying to prove itself as the toughest dragon around, and in spite of only being a mid-sized dragon of about 50 feet in length, it can actually handle its own against much larger foes. This dragon, oddly enough, doesn't breathe fire from its mouth, but instead shoots explosive blasts of fire from its massive claws. When it wants to attack, a highly combustible fluid builds up in its palms. Then, orange pads superheat to spark the flames and ignite an eruption that can work as a devastating attack. But it can also use these explosions to launch itself into the air, working as an incredibly fast flight takeoff that makes these beasts as agile as they are tough. The final odd note about these hyper-aggressive dragons is that they seem to be surprisingly friendly towards humans. Well, perhaps friendly is too strong of a word for it, but cannon claws are rarely found to attack people, and will often protect people from other dragons if a situation to do so presents itself. Don't go around poking them with sticks or anything, but know that if you are anywhere near an explosive cannon claw, you are actually under some pretty powerful protection. Now, as I said off the top, I was taking a lot of inspiration from my new Monster Hunter Illustrations book, and one thing I noticed is that a ton of the creatures in this book are wyverns, the dragons that have their front arms as their wings or don't have front arms. And of course, I thought that was cool because that's my favorite type of dragon, but of course in this series I try to not just do one type of dragon, I try to branch out and do a whole bunch of different types. But for Bakugo, pulling inspiration from this book, I was like, alright, I'm just gonna go with a wyvern. It's usually my instinct to draw one anyway, and I thought it was gonna look so cool, and I think I was right. I spent longer on this drawing than I do most of the drawings in this series. I think I spent about 4.5 hours on this one instead of the usual 2.5 to 3, and I don't know, I was just really into rendering out the different bits, especially the face. I did a bit more rendering on the face than usual, gave him a really angry snarl that I think works really well for a dragon character and specifically for a Bakugo dragon, because he's a pretty aggressive, angry guy. And I think dragons just generally look a lot cooler when they're really angry and snarly, but a lot of the characters in this series I don't make that angry looking because, especially in My Hero Academia, a lot of them are kinda friendly, heroic types of dragons. But I think the angry look worked super well for this one. I love how it turned out, and I hope you all like the cannon claw as well. Our next dragon is one whose flight capabilities are far greater, but also far more bizarre than any other dragon we've discussed. The Gravity Glider shares some resemblance to flying squirrels, as its wings stretch from the ends of its hands to its feet, and instead of flapping its wings, it merely extends its limbs and glides through the air. The reason these creatures don't have to flap their wings to stay airborne is because they emit some kind of gravity-defying energy, both from their mouths and from the round panels along their stomachs. But along with the ability to make themselves fly, they can also make objects and beings around them float off the ground using that same energy. This is particularly effective in combat to disorient enemies. But of course, these dragons don't have many enemies to speak of. They're a very friendly species of dragon that will approach any creatures or beings they come across to greet them. This can be intimidating to some because, they are still dragons, but most recognize gravity gliders as non-threatening, both due to their reputation and due to their cute, wide-eyed appearance. Now for Ochaka, there was a few different places I was taking inspiration from for her dragon. One, obviously, from some of the creatures in Monster Hunter. There's a dragon in that has that sort of flying squirrel kind of look, and I wanted to make sure, while I knew flight was going to be an important part of this dragon, I wanted it to be different, like she still had her gravity-defying powers. So, obviously I worked that in a little bit. But then the other inspiration I was taking was actually from Toothless, from How to Train Your Dragon, because he has that cute, big-eyed, sort of friendly look that I was looking for. Because with Ochaka, I really wanted to make her really cute looking as a dragon, kind of like with what I did with the Spider-Man dragon. But of course, with this one, I didn't have the slightly harder to work with factors of, spider qualities. So with this one, to make it cute, I wanted to give it big eyes. I tried to play with the rounder shapes because that is generally a cuter, more friendly shape, but also because, as you can see from Ochaka's design, she has a lot of really round shapes to her. I'm pretty happy with how it came out. It was a little bit tricky to render this one because her body is so flat, so the shading was a little bit awkward. Kind of had to act like the lighting was coming a bit from below / to the side. It's not my favorite rendering I've done, but I really like how the design turned out. And as always, I hope you all do too. Here's the Gravity Glider. Now this is kind of a tangent from the episode, but look what finally came in the mail this week. It's the Popcross Studios silver play button. I mean, we're almost at 200k subscribers now, but it took me a while to figure out what exactly I had to do to get this thing mailed over, so it's kind of on me. But I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone that helped us get here, and to everyone who's helping us get to the gold play button. Next target is obviously 1 million subscribers. And if you want to help us get there, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified when videos are coming out on Mondays and Fridays. But anyway, thanks again everybody, you're an awesome community. Now let's move on to All Might, shall we? Next we have one of the mightiest dragons of the Eastern world, which is reflected in its name. The mighty Ultra Beast is a large-scale dragon who acts as a symbol of hope to the human civilizations of Japan. They're nearly indestructible, can fly at lightning-fast speeds, and can level mountains with seemingly no effort at all. Though with that said, there are rumors that these dragons actually have a second form, much weaker and more fragile, like that of the Western dragon, the Gargantuan Smasher. In this state, it's said that they're much more easily defeated, but as these dragons are quite rare, nobody has ever proven this to be true. Nor would many want to. The Ultra Beast is as friendly and heroic as any dragon we've seen, often showing up in natural disasters to rescue humans and animals trapped in the chaos. But one of the most distinct features of these dragons is their faces, seemingly in a perpetual state of grinning. Their lips are rarely seen closed, and their eyes are almost never seen at all, hidden deeper into their skulls and often obscured by shadows. Because of these creatures' tendencies for heroics, this grin is seen by most as a hopeful and pleasant sight. But the obscuring shadows over their eyes also give a somewhat eerie look that reminds any who see them of the massively intimidating power these beasts possess. Now with All Might, I didn't want to go too fancy. I did a pretty traditional humanoid-ish big dragon kind of body. I was basically trying to replicate his own body and physicality in this dragon. Big, bulky upper body, and then smaller but still muscular legs. And then his hair, horns, whatever they are, translated pretty easily into a dragon design because they just kind of look like horns anyway. And obviously I had to work in his classic grin and I guess it's a bit of a side note, but do other people find All Might kind of creepy looking? Because I know I do. I mean, I love his design, but I've never seen a character with totally obscured, shaded out eyes that doesn't look a little bit creepy. That's just a side note. I love All Might. He's an awesome character. The other inspirations I was taking from this one mostly came from Deathwing from World of Warcraft. Not because I was trying to make this dragon look evil looking, but just that's a really cool, big, bulky, monstrous dragon. So I was pulling from that a little bit for the scale and the head shape and stuff like that. But then I was also taking a little bit of inspiration from one of my drawings from last week when I drew Godzilla Venomized, because I really liked how I'd done the paneling on the stomach to make a not so detailed part a little bit more detailed and interesting and like add some extra bevels to it. And I really liked how that turned out, so I worked that in a little bit here on All Might Dragon's lower stomach. Definitely gonna play with that more because I'm liking how it looks for big creature design. Anyway, here's the finalized version of our mighty Ultra Beast. Finally, we end on a dragon that is all about speed. And while these dragons are agile flyers, they're most commonly found on the ground, where they can reach their top speeds. As their name suggests, the armored Turboraptors resemble raptors and have powerful hind legs which can propel them to speeds of 300 kilometers per hour. Because of how much their bodies have to move to reach these speeds, as you'd assume, these dragons get incredibly hot in full sprint. Luckily, their biology accounts for this, and they have vents across their bodies on their legs and wings. When they move at top speeds, hot air, and at times full-blown flames, will expel from these vents to relieve some of this heat. The armored portion of their name obviously refers to the silver plating along these dragons' hides. These grow naturally, but actually get shed every few years, leading many to track these dragons while waiting for this to happen, so the armor can be taken and sold for high prices. Personality-wise, these dragons are stoic and proud. They'll help others in need, but don't expect them to come bounding up to greet you if you find yourself on their territory. Now, because of Tenya Iida's speed, I knew I wanted to take raptor inspiration for this one, and I like that part of it. I feel like I could have made his legs bigger and a little bit more interesting design-wise, and I definitely wish I'd done his wings a little bit differently. I mean, I knew I wanted them to be smaller-ish and focus on the dragon being really quick on the ground, but the wings are just a little bit awkward looking, I think. Maybe that's just me, but I think they're a little bit too chicken-like. Basically, I was trying to play around with the types of wings I've been drawing, because I tend to go to the same sort of idea when I'm drawing wings, and I'm doing a lot of dragon episodes, so that's a lot of repetition wings-wise. I think the part of him I like the most is the head, but I think I've also got to work a little bit on how I'm doing armor plating on different dragons. Because if you look at something like the Iron Man dragon, with that one, I didn't really work in much of an armored look. I kind of just talked about how his scales are very armor-like. But because of that, I think that dragon doesn't look so much like Iron Man. I really love the general look of it, but you don't look at it and right away think Iron Man. With this one, I think you're much more likely to look at it and think Tenya Iida, because I worked more of his armor into the design. But that also makes it look a little bit less natural and biological looking, so there's some kind of middle ground that I'll have to find in there at some point. But overall, happy enough with this, and I hope you like our last dragon of the day, the Turboraptor. Alright, I think I'd call this another successful round of turning something into dragons. And as requested by a bunch of people, I've put a bunch of the dragons from the past My Hero Academia episode and from this one in my online store, which you can get by clicking on the little storefront below all my videos, so you can buy them as posters or whatever else. But if you haven't seen the other Dragons episodes, as I said, there's a previous My Hero Academia Dragons episode, where I've got Deku, Red Riot, Froppy, Todoroki, and then I've got a whole bunch of Marvel-focused episodes as well, taking Avengers, Avengers villains, and X-Men, and turning them into dragons. But give me suggestions for who else you want to see dragonified in the comments below. More My Hero Academia characters, any specific Ben 10 aliens, or maybe any other franchise. I'm trying to branch out a little bit more, doing some Godzilla episodes recently, and Transformers episodes. But then, you know, there will also be the regular stuff. I think I'm going to do a Pokemon as Superheroes episode next week. I'm really excited to get back to that. But anyway, everybody, that's all for today. I'm Christian Pearson. This has been Popcross Studios, home of the nerdiest art videos on YouTube. Once again, thanks to all the subscribers for getting us to the almost 200k milestone, but also to the 100k. Subscribe if you enjoy this kind of stuff and you're not already, and I will hopefully see you all in the next episode. Thanks for watching, everybody. Goodbye.